If you're between the ages of 55 to 65 with $1 to $3 million in your 401k or traditional IRA, you need to understand something about your future required minimum distributions that I've seen far too many people miss. And it's not just the tax that you end up paying on required minimum distribution. That's the obvious. It's bigger than that. You see, it's the ripple effect that those taxes trigger across your entire retirement. And more importantly, the control you lose over tax planning forever. Through working with clients who felt blindsided by their taxes in their 70s, I've learned that retirees who thrive, they're not just the ones with the biggest portfolios. Sure, that helps. Instead, the ones that come out ahead are the ones who plan ahead. The ones that know the required minimum distribution is coming one day, and therefore they begin planning years in advance while they still have options and flexibility. And that window to plan, it's the years between when you retire and when your required minimum distributions start somewhere between 70 and 75. Now, I call this the golden window. It's the most important decade of your retirement that you absolutely have to get right. In fact, I made an entire video on how to get the most out of those years from 55 to 70, and I'll link to it at the end of this video. But for now, for most people watching this video, you're not quite yet retired, or maybe you've just retired, you're in that window. That's here and now. So in this video, I'm going to show you what required minimum distributions actually cost beyond just the obvious tax hit, and what you can still do about that before that window closes forever. Let's start with answering what actually happens when RMDs begin in your 70s. Now, depending on the year that you were born, which you can see here on the chart, that changes for every year, the IRS forces you to start withdrawing money from your traditional IRA or 401k, whether you need that money or not. Remember, that's going to be very important as we go on in this video, whether you need that money or not. It's required. Now, the percentage of what you actually have to take out, that increases as you get older. At 73, your starting year, it's about 3.8%. By 85, it's over 6%. And by 90, you're pulling out nearly 9% of your remaining balance per year. Now, this forced income, it shows up on your tax return. It's ordinary income, again, regardless of your actual spending needs. In fact, you could be perfectly comfortable living on your Social Security, pension. IRS doesn't care. They want their money now. Because think about it. They gave you a tax deduction when you put money in your 401k or IRA. It's grown for the last 30 years. It's now time to take it out. They're here waiting. And here's what I see with clients all the time. See, they spent those 30 years diligently saving, building up their 401k, thinking this is my safety net, I've done everything right. But what they didn't realize is that once those required minimum distributions start, they lose control over their taxable income. They lose the plot. Essentially, it's the IRS now in control of saying, here's how much you're going to get every year, and we're in charge. And it's all because we didn't plan ahead. Now, you may be asking yourself, this doesn't really seem like that big of a deal, but we're going to get to that. You see, before required minimum distributions start, that golden window we've been talking about, you're the one that's in control. You get to decide how much income you take each and every year. You can have a low income year intentionally for tax planning purposes. You can choose strategically to take more money out, fill brackets based off of where you're at, but you have flexibilities. But again, because now that RMDs are in the picture, the government now makes that decision for you. And here's the kicker. The larger your IRA or 401k balance, you guessed it, the larger required minimum distribution, the larger forced withdrawal. So for all of us that did everything right, we've maxed out our 401ks, we live below our means, these are the folks that end up with the biggest tax problems, tax headaches years down the road. I worked with Mark, a 60-year-old engineer. He had $1 million saved. He was so proud of himself, which he should be. He did the right things. But when I showed him, if we don't pay attention to our taxes now, 15 years from now, his RMD is going to be almost $40,000. And by 80, it'll be 50. And 85, it'll be $60,000 and growing and growing and growing. And that's forced income he's going to have to pay on top of his Social Security, on top of his renting income. Again, whether he needs it or not. Because remember this, required minimum distributions, it's forced income whether we want it. But that's just a starting point. Let me show you what that forced income does to everything else, because it's a negative ripple effect that we're going to have to watch out for. You see, RMDs, they don't happen in isolation. No, they stack on top of everything else. Income like Social Security, pensions, dividend, rental income. And this stacking, it pushes us higher and higher into new brackets than we ever expected before. Now, let's look at an example together. Roger's 72. He's about to turn 73, and he'll take his first required minimum distribution this year. Patty, she's 2 years younger, so she'll take hers down the road in a couple of years. You see, before required minimum distributions kicked in, their retirement income looked like this. They had $68,500 combined from Social Security. They had a pension of $30,000, investment income of $8,000, and their total income was only $68,000. This put them comfortably in the 12% tax bracket. Now, we'll pause here. You may be saying, well, that math doesn't add up. Their Social Security was only taxed at 50%. There'll be a section in this video later on how Social Security is taxed. But for right now, just know that their income was low. It was in the 12% tax bracket because Social Security got that benefit. Now, let's see what happened to Roger and Patty after Roger had to take his first required minimum distribution. So what we're going to want to do is add $57,000 to that figure. Roger had a $1.5 million IRA, and so his first required minimum distribution was about $57,000, which now meant their Social Security was taxed at 85%, making their new total income $153,000. What did this do? Put them in the 22% tax bracket. That's not just 22% on the full amount. See, every new dollar above that $89,075 figure, it's taxed at 22%. That's a 10% jump from 12 to 22. Now, this is hard because mathematically we know this is predictable. RMDs are going to happen. It shouldn't catch us by surprise. They're going to push us into higher tax brackets, so we have to plan ahead. Now, unfortunately, that ripple effect, it does not end just with Social Security and taxes. We're going to talk next about what those RMDs do to our Medicare premiums. Your Medicare premiums are based off your income. And as your income rises, well, you guessed it, so does what you pay for Medicare. We call that Irma. Aunt Irma, as my clients have come to know, and we don't like Aunt Irma. She costs a lot of money. Now, Irma, it stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It's a mouthful, as you see why we just call it Irma. Now, it's the surcharge that increases what you pay for Medicare. That's based on your income. Now, here's how it actually works. Medicare looks at your income from 2 years ago to set your current premium. So we'll say you turned 73 in 2024 and you took your first RMD that year. Let's say it was $60,000. Fast forward to 2026, 2 years later, your Medicare is now looking back at that 2024 income in the year you took that RMD. So that $60,000, well, it pushed you over the IRMA threshold. Now guess what? 2 years later, your Medicare premiums went up. And more than likely, that means your Social Security got reduced because that's how most people pay for Medicare is through their Social Security rather than writing a check. Now, these income thresholds, which we'll see here on the screen, they're broken down into tiers. For the first tier, for single filers for 2026, it's $109,000. Married filing jointly, $218,000. And they go up as your income rises and IRMA then gets more expensive. So if we cross those thresholds, your Medicare for Part B and D, well, it goes up. Now here's what most people miss. Even if you cross it just by $1, you're stuck in that tier for the entire year. Now, yes, you may be saying to yourself, well, don't they just reset every year, so it's not that big of a deal? You're not wrong. That's correct. But if we haven't done proper RMD planning ahead of time, our RMDs, they come every year. And so what's that going to do? It's going to permanently place us in a higher IRMA bracket. We're going to be hanging out with IRMA a lot more often. So let's go through an example together. We'll say for the first tier, standard Medicare costs us $202 a month. If we cross that tier, meaning our income is $218,000 at $266, it jumps up from that $202 to $284. That's an $82 jump a month and almost $1,000 a year extra. Not to mention, for Part D, an extra $14, $15, which is an extra $175 a year. Now, when we put that together, it's about an extra $1,100. And for a couple, that's $2,300 a year extra for Part B and D because we went over that tier. So if we're married, we're paying double. One surcharge for you, one for your spouse. And here's the thing, over a decade of retirement, IRMA could end up costing you tens of thousands of extra dollars. And again, if you didn't do that proper RMD planning year, there's no escaping this. You're going to be hanging out with Aunt Irma. We don't want that for you. Okay? This is thousands of extra dollars over your lifetime that you could be using for travel, for experiencing, to help your kids out, your grandkids, to really enjoy your retirement. Don't send it for Medicare premiums. Now that you see how required minimum distributions trigger IRMA and spike your taxes if you want help building your dream retirement, click on the link in the description below and I will send you a personalized Loom video showing you exactly how to optimize your retirement to plan ahead for these required minimum distributions so you can spend more time doing the things that you love and enjoy and keep more of your hard-earned money. Now, back to the video. Here's something most people don't know when it comes to your Social Security benefits is that it's based on your combined income, which is a formula set by the IRS. But this combined income, it determines how much of your actual benefit gets taxed, which could be as low as nothing, half of your benefit, or up to 85% of your Social Security benefit being taxable. Now, this combined income, the formula, it's your adjusted gross income, so that's your AGI, plus any non-taxable interest, plus half of your Social Security benefits. Now, when required minimum distributions start, those are treated as ordinary income. And that counts towards the calculation. And what does it do? It just makes your benefits get taxed more and more. And we don't like that. Now, fortunately, it stops at 85%, but let's break down an example to show you what this actually looks like. So for our friends Roger and Patty from before they started the required minimum distribution, their Social Security income combined was $68,500. Now, because their income was low enough, only $30,013 of this was taxable, about half. Roger had his pension of $30,000, investment income of $8,000, but combined, let's put them in the 12% tax bracket, with half of their Social Securities being taxable. Now, when Roger turned 73 and he took his first RMD of $57,000, what did this do? Well, it bumped them into a new tax bracket. They went from 12 to 22, and they did that, and that happened because their Social Security went from half of the benefits being taxable to 85% of the benefits being taxable. And this gets even worse when Patty takes her RMD 2 years from now. Her entire RMD is going to be taxed at a higher tax bracket of 22%, so not fun at all. And here's where it gets frustrating is that this is in your control. If we lower our required minimum distributions and we do that planning ahead, we could put ourselves in a situation years down the road where we can control how much of our benefits from Social Security are actually taxable. And this is frustrating because I know you already paid this benefit. And now, if without proper planning, you're forced to pay more taxes on a benefit you already funded. But here's what stings is we did this to ourselves without any planning in advance. And see, it's that RMD that triggered all of this. And so we gotta plan ahead to see where we're going to be and how this is going to impact that ripple effect on our taxes, Medicare and IRMA, and lastly, our Social Security benefits. What can you do? Now, for most people, we got that golden window. That's from the time you retire till when required minimum distributions start. Think about it. You have no more W-2 income, no RMDs yet, maybe Social Security or not, but you're in a very, very low tax bracket. That's your window. It's your window to do Roth conversions at a lower tax rate, 10, 12%. That's your window to intentionally take money out of your IRA if you're not doing Roth conversions at a lower tax rate today than where you'd be 10 years from now. Because taking money out of your IRA today at that lower bracket accomplishes almost the same thing as a Roth conversion, effectively lowering your future RMD. That's the goal that we're after. Because again, once required minimum distributions start, your options shrink dramatically. You're stuck. And so what I see as a retirement planner is the difference between retirees that planned ahead and those who didn't. It shows up pretty evidently, pretty clearly in your 70s. See, the ones that didn't plan ahead, higher taxes, more Medicare premiums, Social Security gets taxed higher. They're just not happy about that. Let me show you what this planning actually looks like. I have a client, we'll call her Jill. She just retired last year. She's 62, so she's got 11 years before she starts her first RMD. She's got $900,000 in her traditional IRA. And here's what we're going to do for Jill over the next 11 years. We're going to systematically convert up to the top of the 12% tax bracket, maybe a little bit into the 22, depending on where she is each and every year. You see, over the next 11 years, we're going to do this so that by the time she's 73, her traditional IRA will have shrunk to $300,000, and her RMDs are going to be really, really small. There's going to be huge savings there, and she's going to avoid IRMA, and most of her retirement savings will now be in a Roth, growing tax-free. And remember, with Roth IRAs, no RMD. That's planning. That's control. Compare that to someone same age as Jill, same balance, that doesn't do any of that planning, they're going to be in a higher tax bracket. They're probably going to pay Medicare premiums, and their Social Security is going to be much more taxable. So if you're watching this and maybe you just retired, you're on the doorstep of retirement, and it's a long ways till required minimum distributions, you may say, hey, Nick, I got this. I understand RMDs. You explained it well in the video. But what I don't understand is, what do I do with these golden years before my required minimum distributions start? Well, I have a video walking you through exactly those strategies to use in the golden window between retirement and when your RMDs start. That video is going to pop up here on the screen right now. Click on it. I'll walk you through exactly what you need to do while you still have control.